Decisions are made by those who show up. Jed Bartlett from the West Wing. My guest in this episode of Passing the Torch is the Director of Partnerships for Military and Defense and Science and Technology at Recurrent Ventures. She's been telling company stories for over 2 decades. She is a New York Times award-winning author, accomplished speaker, instructor, and graphic facilitator. She has published thousands of articles through various outlets, including The Washington Post, We Are the Mighty, Task and Purpose, and Military.com. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome communicator, editor, graphic storyteller, former CIA instructor, recovering bureaucrat, and master of the gritty. Passing the Torch with Tessa Robinson starts now. First and foremost, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me, Martin. It's been a long time of making this happen. I'm glad we finally got to do it.
Yeah, so this book right here is my dream guest target list, and you've been in this book. I have about 150 names on here, or within here, and your name's been there for 2 years, even before I knew that you worked for Recurrent. It's when I was just following We Are the Mighty, and I just read a couple of your articles, and I was like, man, this person's awesome. And of course, I got to meet you over the past year or so. But yeah, so it's an honor. I appreciate it. One question I like to start each podcast with is, why is life great right now?
Ooh, that is a great question. Life is great right now, first and foremost, because The West Wing is coming back to Netflix in a few weeks. So
I saw that and I thought of you instantly. I saw that. Can I get some props on the Jed Bartlett quote?
I loved it. So fun fact, many, many years ago, I was actually working for the White House when The West Wing was on live. So I think it was on like every Thursday night, and I was a cult follower of that show. I've loved it for many years. I think it's one of the greatest plots and character development. It's wonderful storytelling. So I've always been a big fan of The West Wing. So that is one reason life is great right now. I've also got 2 awesome kids, which, they're just a lot of fun, and teenagers are a little bit daunting, but mine are pretty awesome. And there's really a lot of cool stuff happening at Recurrent, which, I'm sure we'll get into. And that's more than one thing, Martin, but life is good. I cannot complain. And it's almost Thanksgiving, which is my favorite holiday.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I've always just been very interested by your background. I know you, like you mentioned, you've worked with the White House. You deployed with FEMA, helped run a presidential inauguration, and somehow still had the time to hit the gritty with Justin Jefferson. Tessa, I need you to be honest. Which was more stressful, disaster response or dancing in public?
Oh, no, dancing in public has never been daunting to me. And disaster response is it's fascinating, and it's such a worthy thing. I will say, doing someone else's dance move that they created in front of them, that's a whole different level of stress. Yeah, I mean, you've seen me at Mick. I'll dance all day.
Mm-hmm.
But a signature move of somebody else's, trying to do that on camera, that's another level of stress. But it was a lot of fun. He's a great teacher and just an overall really good dude. So that's definitely a career highlight, is just getting to go to the Super Bowl experience every year with the NFL and USAA. It's an awesome partnership that we really, really cherish.
Yeah, now you held your own, and I mean, he gave you some kudos, so that was pretty cool to see.
I couldn't tell. My kids watched that after, and I think at first my son was horrified, as all teenagers are, of their moms. And then once his friends were like, dude, your mom is so cool, I got so much street cred for that. So I've been capitalizing on that for a few years now, of just the Super Bowl experience with the players is a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, right on. I know like we have a time limit, so I just want to kind of hit some questions. Please discuss Story Shorts production.
Oh, so that was something that was just kind of born out of, I kept getting asked to do it. So I started an LLC a few years ago. I've always done graphic design on the side and animated storytelling. I really believe that the most important thing you can do for your own business is learn to how concisely tell your story. Yeah. So there's so many great ventures out there, but if you ask them what they're doing, 15, 20 minutes later, you still have no idea what it is that they're selling or what they're doing or what their goals are. So Story Shorts production was a venture I came up with just to help entrepreneurs tell their stories in 2 minutes or less, and then animate it, because it's, video is always more fun. And of course, we're in a very digital world now. Yeah. So putting your story to pictures to make it a little more memorable, you just remember.
Yeah, and that's a great point. So with that, like how important is the power of storytelling?
I think it's the most important thing that we do. I really do, especially in the digital field. If you're able to tell a story and to make something come to life through the power of words, people will remember that
Yeah.
so much more than they'll just remember reading facts. So, tying and weaving really powerful anecdotes into something, there's nothing better. There really isn't.
I love it. And and I had the opportunity at MIC to be on a panel discussing authentic storytelling, and this is why I think podcasting I'm very passionate about. 'Cause there's a lot of powerful storytelling that comes through podcasting. I mentioned before, even offline, I've wanted to have you on my podcast for a couple years because there's just so many like just cool little like backstories with you. Um, but one thing that really stuck out to me, besides the gritty, of course, was you are a self-proclaimed recovering bureaucrat. So I have a combination question here, right? So tying in a lot of different things, but again, as a self proclaimed recovering bureaucrat with a love for the West Wing and a background in leadership and economics from way back in high school. How did those early experiences and influence shape your view of what effective public service should look like? And where do you think leadership tends to get lost in the machinery of government and I guess society?
Oh, wow. Big question. So, I fell in love with politics at a very, very young age. I just really liked the idea of public service. I liked the idea of, a tiny ripple can create a tidal wave. I liked the idea of if you want to see something done, you have the ability to change that. I mean, I ran for student council in middle school, served in student council in high school, and decided really early on in college that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do politics. So I worked on several campaigns, worked on a senator's race in Missouri in 2002, totally dating myself. And then
You're
I
so
went,
young. You're so young, though.
went and worked on the president's campaign in 2004, and I just really fell in love with politics. And then after a governor's race in '06, I found actually I hated politics, but I loved government. I
Yeah.
really liked the policy making. So I shifted out of the let's get people elected to the how do we create meaningful change within the government, which is really where I turned my focus to policy. I really enjoyed that. I predominantly worked in continuity policy, which is this notion of how does our government survive if there's some sort of disaster. Fell in love with, like you said, disaster response, was surged to FEMA for the Hurricane Katrina relief, which I have so many thousands of stories you would not believe, from living on Shania Twain's donated tour bus that was staged in the state penitentiary because we didn't have any hotel rooms, to, serving with President Bush while we were down there for response. And it's just a really interesting and informative time. But I think that all through that and falling in love with politics, and I really did, I loved the bureaucracy of it, of
Yeah.
this is what the rules look like and these are the steps you go through, until we were trying to do really cool things in the wake of a response and found that that red tape was so prohibitive. And I think that's for me when I started to realize when you have to work within the red tape, a lot of things get lost in your ability to be creative and your ability to do things that can create really meaningful change. You just don't have the ability to do it. So that's where I think for me, it started looking like, I don't know that I want to be in this bureaucracy forever. I was with General Services Administration, which does all the land, all the public buildings for the government, and was recruited out of GSA to go work for the CIA. And the
Mm.
CIA was the most fun. I mean, it really was. I absolutely love the people there. It is just, as a whole, an organization of folks who are there for the right reasons, doing the right things, and nobody knows about it. Those are the folks who are in the shadows that are undercover and never get the credit that they deserve. And most people have no idea what they're doing, and they're just doing good work as hardworking Americans. So I really fell in love with that. But I think along the way, when I look back at leadership throughout my career, I would tell you it started at the Foundation for Teaching Economics summer camp I went to when I was in high school. And we'll talk about the power of storytelling, Martin. So of course I have to tell you a story. That's how this works. But there was, I think 30 campers, and we're high school juniors. So we're all like 16, 17-year-old absorbed kids who,
Yeah.
are just at summer camp. And we had this, these are all high performing kids, right? So we're all super competitive. We're all squared away academically. Everybody's got their sights on doing different things through college. And we get a scavenger hunt. And so we're at the University of Colorado Boulder. We get this scavenger hunt of all the different things we are supposed to find. And then there's one big question, which is the most important thing on campus. So we go our different ways, and everybody's, figuring out how many books are in the library. We're counting how many trees are on the quad, thinking that this one question is going to stump all of us. And we go on this bus from place to place to place, from the stadium to the quads to the lunch rooms to all these different places. And at the end of the day, we go through our little scavenger hunt, and the instructor says, the most important question for all of you to answer: what was the name of your bus driver? And not a single one of us could answer the question. And that, for me, I think that pivotal moment of leadership is really about taking care of the people around you, appreciating the people who are driving you places, literally and figuratively. And it really, even as a 16 or 17-year-old kid, shaped this philosophy of we have to take care of one another, especially the people who are giving up their time to do something that other people might not think is as important. But without that, and that's the whole notion of the CIA, the tip of the spear, you see the operators and the folks who are going out there and doing all these things. But the folks who are stocking the cafeteria are just as important because they enable them to do their job. So just take good care of people. That's really my leadership philosophy and how that was shaped a very, very long time ago.
That's a great, thank you for sharing that story. But everyone has a story, right? We take, to your point, we take people for granted. But just knowing you in person, or meeting you in person, talking with you, you're very passionate about just mentorship and writing authentic stories. With your current new position, how do you envision bringing that same energy and impact to your new role?
So just a tiny background for folks who don't know me. I was editor-in-chief for We Are the Mighty for, 6 years almost. And I loved it. I loved being the EIC. I loved mentoring writers. I was especially proud of the fact that we launched the Mighty Milspouse vertical, and, where we told just hundreds of stories written by military spouses for military spouses. There was a lot of great things that came out of my time at We Are the Mighty, and I'm really proud of that. My new boss, when she took over, Kathy Pummel, who I know Martin is, speaking of mentorship, just a
She's
wonderful
okay.
I'm going to tell her you said that.
I'm going to send her this clip.
She's one of my favorite human beings.
Yeah.
And I, had a very vulnerable moment when she came on in March, and I just told her, hey, I want to give you a heads up because I respect you. And I know you're getting your feet wet, but I have one foot out the door and it's time for me to go, because the burnout of being the editor-in-chief for 6 years without having a deputy, without having anybody else on your staff, and solely, freelancers, it just was too much, and it got to the point where it's like, I need to do something different. And so Kathy, kudos to her, really believes in, if you have the right people on your team, it doesn't really matter what they're doing, as long as they're, as their skill sets and passions align. If they're the right people to be here, then keep them at any cost. So Kathy repurposed me, and I was so grateful for it. So Director of Partnerships is really just about selling our brand, and more than anything, it's telling our brand story. And those are stories I'm really excited about. I think the Military Influencer Conference, which of course is where we met, one of the greatest success stories of entrepreneurial ingenuity we've seen. Cortez Riggs, who, Army veteran, has this idea to get people together, and it's 219 of us, I think, or something ridiculous, in Dallas. And it was so much fun. I had an absolute blast in Dallas. I met a lot of my blogging buddies in person for the first time. And I thought, this is cool. I'd like to come back to this. And then the next year I went back and saw Mark Harper and David Gale, the founders of We Are the Mighty. Well, David's the founder and Mark was the first CEO. And hearing them talk about what Wadham was, I walked up to them afterwards and said, you don't know me, but I have to come work for you. I really do. And 2 years later, they hired me as their editor-in-chief. But so for me, being able to talk about the Military Influencer Conference and MIC, it doesn't feel like a job, because I really do believe in what we're doing. And the same thing with Milspouse Fest. I was the MC for MSF 7 or 8 years ago, and I'm back as the MC. And working with Jessica Manfrey, who is just a ball of rainbows and sunshine and energy and laughs. It is so much fun and doing something really worthy, going around the world, celebrating military spouses who largely feel unseen and a lot of times feel neglected and disconnected, and going to these different bases and saying, hey, anybody in the room, come here not knowing anybody else. And to see hundreds of people raise their hand, knowing that they're going to leave with a meaningful connection is everything. I mean, we had I told this story before, but we had a woman in Camp Pendleton who came to the evening event, which was a comedy show with Tom Tran, who is hilarious, as you know. And this woman was kind of standing by herself afterward, and we're cleaning up and getting everything done. It's been a long day because we had a morning event, an evening event. And I went over and I just put my arm around her. I said, hey, are you good? Do you need a ride home? Are you okay? And she just started crying. And she said, I'll be honest with you, I haven't left my house in 5 days. Her husband was deployed, no kids. And she said, I was going to kill myself today. And somebody texted her and invited her to this event. And she's like, this saved my life. Like, and I mean, we just sat there and bawled, of course, but it's like, if that's the only thing we do all year, Martin, that's it. If that's the one person we touch through these events, that's enough. And it's not just the one, it's countless people at every single MSF we go to. We have a story like that. So for me, it doesn't feel like work because it's just, I really believe in what we're doing. And then our digital brands, We're the Mighty, of course, celebrate great stories through service. We've got the War Zone, which is just fascinating technical aviation and defense contractors. It was just incredible. Tyler, who runs that, is brilliant. And then Task and Purpose, of course, the news and journalistic arm. They are so intelligent and talk about restoring integrity to journalism. They do that. So this job of talking about these 5 brands, I love it because it's really, really important what we're doing.
I agree. And that's why I'm such a huge supporter overall of just Recurrent, right? And whether it's Mick or We Are the Mighty, and I've seen all the pictures and stuff with Millspouse Fest, and it seems like, I mean, you've been busy, right? And the Mick pop-ups and I think Task and Purpose, it's great. And just just doing whatever I can just to help bring that, not that you guys need it, but just continue like bringing that shine to it because you're doing so much.
I mean, I think that's the thing is that, we have these really wonderful ambassadors in folks like you who see what it is, and not because it's a money-making vehicle, but because of the power it has to really transform lives. And I don't say that lightly. I really believe that it does.
Yeah.
And to get to hear like Casey at Mick talking about the, just F and ask and what the great work that the Overwatch Project's doing, and, USAA and Face the Fight and some of our incredible partners. It's just, man, it's so cool that we get to do this.
That's cool. Like, that's right. Like, it's so cool you get to do this. Like, it's just awesome. And everyone's been so kind to me from my experience.
Well, because you're awesome. You're easy to be kind
to. Like, you and Jess Manfrey specifically are probably the first, couple people I talked to. And I think I've given you guys that feedback and some shout outs, but just big fans of both of you. So I want to just quickly transition. Your series, The Deployment Diary, offers a deeply personal perspective on military life. How did your experience in federal service and with the CIA influence your approach to storytelling in the series?
Ooh, I think, I was an instructor at the agency, and really you find that in conducting offsites and in instructorship, the most important thing you can do is storytelling, right? Like, you're going to remember the story about how I was asked the bus driver's name long after what if I would have said, these are the facts about leadership, right? So that storytelling piece is really important. I think for me with the Deployment Diary, it was supposed to be a 6-part series with the New York Times. I was married to a Navy pilot, and we had young children who were going through a series of deployments. I mean, it really, it just felt like he was gone all the time on workups and then actual deployments. I wanted to approach it in a way that felt not just authentic, but vulnerable, of this is why this is so hard on kids. This is why this is hard on a family. There is unbelievable patriotism in service and in loving a service member. But man, it is really fucking hard. I say
That's the
that?
name of this episode. It's really effing hard. Like that's the it's
I
it's
shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry. You
it's
can go.
no, here's the official name for the episode, and I know you'll agree with this. It's really effing hard, right? We have to do that emphasis, right? It's really effing hard, and Kathy is okay.
Yeah, exactly. But it just, I think for me, week to week, it ended up running, I think 23 or 24 parts, which was awesome and
Yeah.
really cool to be a part of just, hey, this is what our life looks like every week. And it's not just the big, beautiful homecomings. It's the really messy stuff in between. And especially with kids. And, for us, for our family, I mean, we got divorced 5 years ago. The happy ending really wasn't there. So, service is so noble and also very difficult on a family.
I appreciate you opening up and sharing those deeply personal stories. So thank you so much for that. I want to transition to some lighter topics. These are
Oh, yes.
miscellaneous. Yeah.
You don't
Let's,
want to talk about death and divorce
yeah.
anymore. What else we got, Martin? Let's
But I
go.
was excited to ask you about not so much, there was just certain things I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. And I have a Word document with just bullet points about just things I've learned about you. I'm like, oh, it'd be cool to talk to Tessa about this. Um, and I feel like you've lived, I think we're roughly the same age. You look like you're 25, but I feel like you've lived like this, like you've done so many things, and it's almost, you are a TV character, like this person who shows up on the West Wing with this accomplished background, and it's like, oh, she's 28, and it's like, damn, how did you do all, like, you've done all this living in like a short amount of time, right?
Well, funny. I appreciate you saying that because I think, 10 years ago, I feel like I felt this need to be polished and perfect and, the truly like the best Navy wife and the best mom and all of these things. And I think, I don't know if it's after you turn 40, you just have no F's left to give. And it's like, you know what, if I can't be real and vulnerable and messy and authentic, then what are we doing? Right. So
Yeah.
I used to, I think, really hide the fact that, I had all of these different things in my life that I wasn't super proud of. And now it's like, you know what, we're all human. We all make mistakes. We all have our hard things to carry. I think you've heard me. I've been very vocal about the importance of mental health because I struggled with depression for so long. And, I think if we can't be honest with each other, then it really sets the bar too low. It really does.
Agreed. I just turned 44, but like to your,
Oh, you are older than I am.
yeah, but you look so much younger than I do. But yeah, it's just one of those things where I've become more guarded and more with my time and my energy. Like, and we talk about time management. I think of energy management. Like, is this person worth my energy?
That's a very Taylor Swift approach to life of think of your energy as if it's expensive and a luxury and not a break.
Exactly right. And in that same same breath, there's no bad blood between us, right? So I'm up. I got a teenage daughter. What's up? I know though. All right, here's some again miscellaneous random questions. I like to do a name game. I was gonna I'm gonna say a name, just say a few words, a few positive words when you hear the name. The three names I had were people you brought up: Justin Jefferson, Kathy, and Jessica Manfrey. So I'm gonna bring out two new names. So I'm gonna say two names. All right, Lauren Hope.
Oh, Lauren Hope. First of all, we call each other limes because of one night in Vegas where I think I asked for a side of like a lime with a drink, and I got like 30 of them. So we just now have this ongoing limes thing. Talk about a bundle of not just joy, but she radiates peace, I think, more than anything. She is always the calm in the storm. I think she's measured and meticulous. She's absolutely brilliant. She's so creative. She's a lot of fun, but she's just so peaceful. And I really appreciate that for her as somebody who feels very chaotic all the time.
She radiates hope.
Oh, she does. She's the best.
All right, second and last name, Charlinda Scales.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry with that one. So Charlinda and I met, I think, at the first MIC, and she's somebody I've known for a long time, I've watched for a long time. I've admired for a long time. And it wasn't really until maybe 4 years ago that I got to actually really know her. And she and I went through a lot of similar things at, similar times. And she is just so, I feel like this word is so overused, but really, truly resilient and compassionate. She is
Yeah.
kind and a wonderful mother and warm and somebody who really is cheering for everybody else. She is just truly remarkable. What's so funny, Martin, is that I am on a group text that was literally today with Lauren Hope and Charlinda. So
See, I know.
But like just 10 minutes ago, we were right before this podcast, the three of us are texting. So both wonderful women. I've really found myself surrounded by impressive people, which is where I like to be. I like to be surrounded by people who make you better. I think it was President Bush said in his book, Decision Points, it's a bad thing if I'm the smartest person in the room. I love to surround myself with people who bring something that I don't have. And Charlinda has this incredible entrepreneurial spirit and grit about her. And Lauren has this calm and steady and very organized. And I am none of those things. So I appreciate that. Unless I'm in a crisis and then my mom voice comes out and it's scary. It's almost like scary quiet. I'm like, okay, guys, here's what we're going to do now. Measured then. I have to channel my inner Lauren for that.
No, that's great. I love Charlinda. I look up to her so much. We live like 10 minutes from one another. She lives,
so awesome.
Very close. And we're going to do a podcast at some point. I think, we talk about it pretty much every time we run into each other, but she's amazing.
She is. And so she wrote a book, Rock Bottom as a Trampoline, and she had a book signing at MIC in Vegas. I believe that was 2 or 3 years ago. And I was getting ready for a panel or something. I happened to be walking by as they were setting up, and I was getting ready to go to my panel. And I said, what are we doing here? This is my book signing. And I got to be the first person she signed a book for. And it was this awesome full circle moment of, both of us just stood there, held each other and cried because I'm really cheering for, and to see her success. And she's another one who's authentic and vulnerable and just, she's awesome. Good people.
So that's one of the few books that I give to people is her book. Like I'll buy a bunch of copies and just hand them out to people when and it's funny you say about resilient, because that's how I describe her to people. There's resilient, and then there's her, which is more than like, it's crazy how resilient she is, and just a phenomenal person. Okay. If you were you've accomplished many things, if you were to give a TED talk for something for which you are not known for, what would it be?
Ooh, that is a tough question. Something that I'm not known for. I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty open about everything I do. I am a mean karaokeer, so I could probably do a TED talk about the power of karaoke, because it's not about what kind of singer you are, Martin. It's about being an entertainer.
That's why I'm great at karaoke. I can't sing. I was in a boy band, right?
I did know that.
Back in the 90s.
Yeah, which is why we're in my flash mob at Kayla.
I forgot about that. That was great. Just if by chance we ever do karaoke together, remember what you said. It's not about singing, because I have a horrible singing voice, but I'm an entertainer. I can make people laugh.
I can carry a tune, but it's really more about the delivery than anything else.
Yeah. Last couple questions is, if there was a giant billboard with your picture on it for the world to see, what would you want your billboard to say? And where would you want your billboard to be?
Ooh, I think, when I think about this a lot, really, of like, what kind of legacy are we leaving for our children, for our children's children? And the legacy that I hope to leave and live, is really that I felt a joy for life. And I do. And I think for me, if I had a billboard, it would say, she loves it here, because I really I'm very grateful for where I am in life. I really am. I'm pretty intentional about my time, as you know. And I just really love what I do when I'm doing it. And a mentor of mine once told me your schedule reflects your priorities.
Mhm.
And I believe that. And so for me, my schedule on any given day is wild. This morning I did a keynote at a fundraising breakfast for my kids' school. And then I'm doing this podcast. I've got meetings this afternoon, and then I've got stuff with the kids and playing tennis with them tonight. And I think my billboard would say she loved it all. And I would hope that it'd be in the great, great, great city of Kansas City, my favorite place in the entire world.
Awesome. Last official question is I've started a tradition. So I just released episode 100 a few weeks ago of my podcast. Thank you very
Congratulations.
much. And for the next, I want to, and it's like, hey, this is a new era, episode 101 moving forward. So I want to pass the torch between guest and each episode. So what I've started doing is ask each guest to, what's a question or a quote I should ask a future guest, or or quote to leave, for a future episode.
Ooh, okay. So one of my very favorite quotes, in addition, of course, to the great L. Frank Baum and The Wizard of Oz, which is "There's no place like home." One of my favorite quotes is Maya Angelou, with the notion that, I don't have it verbatim, but something to the effect of, people won't remember what you said or what you did, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And so with that quote would be, name a teacher who you remember because of the way they made you feel, or name a mentor who's made a difference in your life. I think we don't talk enough about the power of mentorship and how important that is, especially in this space, in this community. Um, and that's why she's more than okay to me. Kathy Pummel is, gosh, she's one of my dearest friends, but somebody I really look up to, and I'm very, very grateful for her mentorship.
Love it. And I'm a big fan of Kathy, and obviously. Um, I'm gonna give a shout out to Mr. Neil Bradshaw. He was my 5th grade teacher, and the best teacher I ever had. So that's a great reminder. So, Tessa, how can I best serve you? What can I do for you?
Keep doing what you're doing. I love it. I
Thank you.
think, and also, like I said, you're such a champion for not just for Recurrent, but for this community as a whole. And we need more people who are willing to stand up and say, hey, this is, we're all better together.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard and sometimes it's messy. I think I'll be really interested to talk to you in a year about what your transition really has looked like and how it is going.
Yeah.
And how, something like Recurrent could better serve you as you get from this, long storied career to the other side of it, where it is a whole new frontier.
Yeah.
And really exciting and endless possibilities. And also like, oh my gosh, what is this new world? So I'm curious to see, transition and how Recurrent can better support folks who are going through that big life change. So I'll be anxious to talk to you about it in a year.
I look forward to that conversation. Tessa, thank you so much. It's been an honor, and I can't wait. I write in pencil, and I always put a check mark next to the person's name after they've been on my show. But when I put that check mark next to Tessa Robinson's name, as a dream guest who has actually made it to my podcast, that's going to be an awesome feeling. So again, thank you for who you are, and thank you what you've done for me and for the community at large. Like, I appreciate you.
Thank you. And thanks for having me on. I'll be a repeat guest. I'll come on anytime you want me.
Awesome.